Hey everybody, this is Strategywizard again. Today I'm going to be doing a review of Eminent Domain. It's a game designed by Seth Jaffee and published by TMG or Tasty Minstrel Games, whichever one you like more. It's for 2 to 4 players. It's about 45 minutes, they say. I would agree. 10 plus age range, I would agree. It's not that complex. So what is this? This box cover just doesn't really tell you much. It doesn't give you anything that you really would want to know. So other than that it's in space. You do know that much. And it is in space, but it's a deck building game. You would never figure that out from this. And you don't really get the idea that what you're, I guess maybe I really don't even know. Eminent Domain, the name doesn't even tell you much, but it's a game of deck building, trying to get planets and increasing your empire and getting points in the process. To be honest, whenever I saw this box cover, I thought, that could be really cool, but it could also be ultra boring. However, I ended up watching a review or something that made me realize, you know what, that looks interesting. I think I might give it a shot. Later on, it was on sale, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And the thing is, though, this came with an expansion, the Exotica expansion. And I haven't really played this without the Exotica expansion, so I'm going to have to review this as both combined. So that being said, it's unfortunate that I have to do it that way, but I don't really know what it's like to play without the Exotica expansion. And because of what the Exotica expansion, which this is the Exotica expansion cover, because of what it offers, I would probably never play without it, because it offers some really interesting things that add more depth to the game, I can tell. So that being said, let's go and go to the table. I'll show you how the game works with the Exotica expansion, and I'll let you know how it all works together, but I'll also show a differentiation of what pieces belong to the base and that expansion. Okay, so this is what Eminent Domain looks like whenever it's set up for 2 players, and again, this is with the Exotica expansion mixed in. Technically, some of these other decks over here actually have even more cards than they should, because I have the Escalation expansion cards mixed in, but nonetheless, just know everything I'm going to show you is from the base game and Exotica. There's just some extra cards in here that you won't see. But here's the thing. I want to go ahead and break down real quick, like before I explain how to play, what the difference is between Exotica, what comes with Exotica versus the base game. Because again, I haven't really played this without Exotica, so I have to review it together, but at least this way you can kind of get an idea of what would come with the base game if you bought them separately. Exotica adds another resource. These are resource tokens that help you get points, and originally there was water, some ore, food, and some kind of powdery substance. Now they've added crystal, which is not super important, but it does matter, I think, with certain technology cards. Yeah, the ships, now they have these little tokens that have 3 little ships on it. That way you can have more ships without running out, which is cool. You get some extra politics cards. You get this mining technology tile that everyone starts off with. Gives you, and the reason why is because they've also added 2 new types of planets. In the original game, there were metallic, fertile, and gosh, I don't even know what the name of the other type was, but now they've added exotic planets and they've added asteroids, and those have different effects on the game. And so this technology helps you with the asteroid side of things, because there's also new start planets. There's a whole bunch of different start planets that you might be able to start the game with, but now there are asteroid start planets and exotic start planets. And then there's also these very unique cards that make it to where the individual setup can be different for both players when you play. Now, here's the thing. Basically, the main thing that the expansion adds, from what I can tell, like I said, I've never played without it, but the main thing I see that it adds is 2 main things. One, more variety of cards and planets to choose from. That way, with the asteroids and everything, there's just a little more variety in the way everything works together. You have more options of what you can pursue to try to get points. And with the cards that start you off differently, it makes it to where each game is probably a little more unique, because you'll start off with different advantages at the beginning. It's kind of like starting off with a special power, essentially, which is cool. I like that, because it makes it to where you're not always starting off exactly the same, and then let's see where it goes from here. You're actually starting off with kind of an agenda
at the beginning, and you run from there. But that's basically what the difference is between the base game and what Exotica adds. Now, let me explain to you how to play, and that will help it all make even more sense. Now, everyone's going to start off with a start planet, which is going to be a nice thick cardboard tile, this mining technology thanks to Exotica, and this wonderful little turn phase tile, and it tells you what the phases are. And even though this game might look complicated, you'll notice how simple a turn is. You have an optional action, you have a mandatory roll, and then you clean up. That's it. So simple. And another wonderful thing is that one player is going to get a tile that says start player. That way you always know who goes first without having to flip a coin or anything like that. And the other tiles just say Eminent Domain. So I thought that was really cool. It's a unique way of deciding who goes first. So this is definitely a deck builder. It's a deck builder that's also kind of an engine builder at the same time, in a way that more so than maybe other deck builders are. I guess most deck builders have a type of engine building going on, but this one more so. What's going to happen is you're going to do an action first if you want, and an action is playing one of these cards or one of these cards if you ever get them into your... and you'll just do what it says. Then you'll do the roll. In a roll, you'll take one of these 5 cards, you'll actually add it to your deck, and then you'll do what the roll says. Other people can follow your roll by playing cards that have the same symbol in the top, so they can kind of copy what you're doing. They won't get as it won't be as effective because you're getting a card and that adds to your effect, and you can boost your roll by playing more of that symbol. They can only follow and not get your leader bonus that you would get in most of these. Not every one of them has a leader bonus, but the leader bonus does matter. And here's the thing. Normally, if you didn't have Exotica, everyone would start off with the exact same cards. It'd be like 2 survey, 2 warfare, 2 colonize, maybe 2 of each or something like that, and a politics card. But with this, suddenly out of the blue, everyone's going to have a totally different starting hand. Now, I'll show you 2 that are very radically different, just so you can see how crazy the difference can be. Like in this case, you start off with 4 survey, but no warfare, no colonize, no produce and trade, but you get 3 research and 3 politics. On the other hand, if you get this one, you have only 2 survey, you've got 1 warfare, 1 colonize, still 0 here, and then 2 and 4. And then you could go even as crazy as, like this one. This one only has 1 survey, but it's got a lot of produce and trade and colonize, but no politics. And you'll also have technology cards that you start with, and it'll decide what your starting planet is. So these make it to where it's very, very different how you start with how your deck starts, and that's really important for how you play the game. Because basically, without going into super duper detail, even though this game is fairly straightforward and simple, I don't want to go into every nook and cranny here. The main thing is, surveying is about being able to get planet cards. So if you survey, you'll get to draw a certain number of planet cards depending on how many of the symbol you end up playing along with your roll, or if you're following how many cards you play. You'll look at them and you'll decide which one you want to take. You'll put the rest at the bottom of the deck, and you'll put the one you want to keep face down in front of you. You'll notice, just like your starting planet tile, these cards have certain features. It tells you how many ships or how many colonies you have to be able to take over this planet. If you have enough ships, you can use the warfare action as either the action or the roll. If you're the leader, you can attack the planet with that many ships. You can flip it over, and suddenly it's yours. You get points, and which you don't. Just so you know, whenever you get points, you don't take them from this pool here of points. This just represents that many points you'll add up at the end of the game. You'll get other bonuses and effects, and in this case, Exotica gives you this extra bonus effect. Now, this symbol, you'll notice, is not on any of these, but this alien symbol, the idea here is basically there's these alien races that you're trying to communicate with. These symbols are worthless by themselves, but as you get these symbols that show an arrow and what it can become, it's basically like you're learning to communicate with these alien races, and they're going to help you, and you can suddenly use them as warfare. And the more of these you get, they basically become a wild, where that any symbol can be used as whatever you have available. Like in this case, they could become produce, and this one would become, they could help you in colonizing. And like this actually is the symbol that becomes wild with these wonderful little translators. So that's a cool thing that Exotica adds. But anyway, you'll look at this and you'll decide, oh, which one do I want? You'll get it, and you'll partially be deciding based on how hard it's going to be to get. Because this is easier. It only takes 3 ships to attack or 3 colonies to settle. And this is 5 and 4, 5 and 4. Most of them all these are 5 and 4 except for this 3 and 3. But you'll be looking at that, trying to decide which one you want, what the abilities are. But also the other thing that's important, if you ever get to the point where you want to do some research, research lets you get technology cards. Unlike most deck builders, most deck builders, every card you get is somewhat unique and it's does something really cool. Here, there's really just 5 basic cards that you're going to be getting. The politics card, all it does, it's an action to be able to take one of these cards and swap it out. So it's basically you remove the politics card from the game and you get one of these. So this is literally the meat of your deck forever. You're never going to have a whole bunch more than these cards, which is, on the face of it, maybe seems kind of boring because you're thinking, wow, all I get is these 5 cards for my whole deck. I'm deck building, but but I'm only going to have that much variety. To a certain extent, that's true, but the interesting part is there's this natural flow, and that, in fact, the order of this is the flow. You're starting off surveying to get more planets, and then you're going to be using warfare and colonize to be able to flip the planets over so you can actually have them in your whatever you want, in your empire. And then you're going to be producing and trading because you're going to get planets like this one that will let you produce a resource, like in this case crystal, and then you'll be able to trade it. So you have this natural flow of wanting to survey for more planets, choose a path for taking over. You only have to do one or the other. You don't have to do both, so you can go for warfare or go for colonize. And then you'll be producing and trading to get points. And then ultimately, the more planets you have, you'll research and you'll research to get these new technologies. And each one of these decks has a different requirement. For example, this one, I should have this one here. This symbol here is for a certain type of planet. There's the fertile, metallic, exotic, and so on. And so you have to have this type of planet, one of them, to be able to even get this kind of card. On the other hand, you have to have an exotic planet to be able to get this card, but you'll have to expend this many 3 symbols of the research symbol to be able to get it. So you'll take the research roll, you'll boost it with other symbols, other research symbols, and if you have 3, then you have an exotic planet, you can get this card. And you'll notice you can actually boost or follow a roll with either one of these. So you can follow a survey or boost a survey roll by playing this card. And if you have any of those planets that give you the translator that makes this a wild, then you can also you could use that. And if they can be survey, then you can count this as 2 survey. So the point is, you're going to be getting more of these cards, and it's going to make a massive difference. Like this one, collect 2 ships or attack 1 planet, but also it gives you these wonderful symbols that you can use to follow. So you'll want to do this at some point, more than likely. You don't have to, and I've seen games where no one does that. No one goes for research. But again, this natural progression where you're building your deck with survey, you're building your deck with warfare or colonize, you're following other people's roles, you're seeing what they're taking, and maybe you'll take some of the cards they're getting so you can follow them on their turn, and you're producing and trading and then researching to add these cards to your deck. And some of these cards, here's an interesting example that Exotica added, is they added technologies that require 1 of each planet of the basic planets, not counting the exotics. So you have to have 1 of each of them just to be able to get this, but it gives you 2 points, and it's a permanent card. And it requires 5 research, by the way. And it says at the beginning of your turn, fill all resource slots on asteroids in your empire. So if you have an asteroid, this one here's an example of one. So if you have this asteroid that has a resource slot and it's empty, then at the beginning of your turn, bam, that just gets filled up, and you'll be able to start trading every turn if you have asteroids that have that. So these technology cards do matter, and you're going to want to get them, and a lot of them go straight in your deck. Some are permanent and stay just on the board, but a lot of them go into your deck. But for the most part, you're not going to get a ton of those before the game's over. Now, that's the one thing that's interesting about this game, is the fact that right about the time that you feel like your engine is really cranking up, it's about over, because whenever depending on how many players you have, if 1 or 2 of these stacks of cards gets emptied, then the game trigger is is end. The end game trigger has happened, and that means that everyone's going to get one more full round, and that's it. And then the other way is if all of these regular black points are gone and only blue is left, that's an end game trigger. So pretty quickly you'll be, if people are doing a lot of producing and trading, you can imagine this little pile of tokens is going to disappear rather fast. And if someone's really focusing on warfare because they like being able to get a bunch of fighters, they'll be getting a bunch of them, so whenever they choose to roll, they can boost it with a bunch of warfare cards in their hand, and next thing you know, you'll be have a whole fleet of ships, and you'll be warfaring your way into getting all these planets, and you'll go through that deck really fast. Now, here's the thing. You'll start off with a hand of 5 cards, but as you play, you'll be able to get more cards because some planets and some technologies give you +1 to your hand size. So you'll have tons of cards in your hand. You'll be doing all this great stuff, and you're building this engine of cards, and sometimes that makes you want to stick with one card, and the game will end faster than you want it to sometimes. I've seen it happen. Sometimes it'll last a little longer, but either way, this point token pool is going to go away. So by the time you get to the point where you've surveyed to get more planets, and you've colonized and fought your way into having an empire, and you're producing and trading, by the time you really get to the point where you're going to be doing a lot of researching, especially to get the big daddies, because let me tell you, the big daddies are expensive. Here's a perfect example. Oh, nope, not the example I was looking for. This one takes 3 of the, I think that's metallic, 3 metallic planets to get. Wow, gives you 5 points, which is awesome, but it takes 7 research. So you have to have enough of these symbols and 3 red planets just to get this puppy. And to be honest, by the time you get to the point where you can do that, there's a good chance the game is getting close to being over. The question is it worth it? Well, for 5 points, that's pretty awesome. And it says, play the action and roll phases of your turn in any order. At the end of the game, take an additional turn. That's pretty powerful because even if you got that on your last turn, suddenly out of the blue, you get another turn. So it's worth it to get these cool things, but by the time you get to that point, chances are the game is wrapping up. So that's one of those things. Some people will love that because it makes it to where the game doesn't maybe overstay its welcome, but other people will find that maybe it's a little frustrating because it seems like it ends as your engine is building up, because you're getting these planets, and these planets, they'll have these symbols, and they allow you to boost and follow. So as your empire is building, you're able to boost and follow the rolls more often and more powerfully. So it's exciting watching the engine build, but then suddenly out of the blue, someone takes the last card in the stack, and you're like, oh, well, that's the game, folks. So anyway, that's how you play, and it's, like I say, it's pretty straightforward. A very streamlined game here, but also somewhat complex and interesting at the same time. It's definitely different and unique for a deck builder. But now let me go back up. Let's go ahead and talk about what I think, and I'll tell you if it's worth buying or not.
Okay, so now that you know how to play the game, what do I think? Well, it's component quality-wise, we'll go over first. I like the components for the most part. The center board is good quality. It folds, good thick cardboard. I like it. The cards are great. Everything's nice. The only problem I have, and it really does bug me, is that because the cards are black around the border, I find that after playing it just a few times, I'm starting to get these little white nicks on the edges. And because the cards look so nice, in my opinion, I really like the way the cards look, having all those white spots start to pop up over time is a little annoying, but I don't know if that's because, I don't know if they're just prone to it or if it has something to do with, I don't know why that's happening, but it's a little frustrating for me. But I don't know that that's necessarily an argument against the components, but it may just be something that I'm doing or the people I'm playing with, what they're doing, who knows. Either way, component quality is great except for that one little caveat. As far as replayability, I find the game with the Exotica expansion has a lot of replayability. Not only do you have those purple cards that give you different individual setup for every player, that's awesome because everyone kind of has whatever focus or agenda from the beginning if they want to follow it. And I think that's helpful because each time you play it'll be a little different. But also, just generally, deck builders I think typically have a lot of replayability because you might try different strategies of how you want to build your deck. However, the difference between this and other deck builders is the cards that you're getting, you don't buy them in the same way, except for the technology cards that were on the side. But those basic cards, you don't buy them. You just add one to your deck every single turn. And they're all from the same 5, which means that overall your decks are not going to be that different other than just the proportions of those 5 cards in your deck. And that's very unique. Honestly, I would say it's a pretty brave way of doing a deck builder, because typically you want to have that differentiation and customization where you have all these kind of cards, your opponent has all these kind of cards, and you're maybe very divergent in the types of cards you might end up having, especially in a game like, say, Star Realms. That's a good example. I mean, in there, your decks could be totally different. You may not even have any duplicate cards, the same card as your opponent other than the starting cards. Here, most of your cards are going to be the same kind of card your opponent has, but still the replayability is there, because how the way the cards function, having a lot of a card makes a big difference. Having a lot of warfare means that you're going to be getting a ton of ships. If you have a little bit of warfare, you might be following other people on their warfare roll. So that's important, but the way you balance it out, and you have to decide, do I want to get a lot of colonize or balance colonize and warfare, or get a lot of warfare? How many times do you want to get scanned so that or a survey so that you can scan for more planets and have more choice of planets to choose from, and then going for the trading and producing and trying to get points there, and then deciding, do I want to start getting research cards so that I can start getting extra cool technologies to put in my deck? All of that, it feels like you have a lot of choice, and I like that, and it keeps the replayability high. Now, I will say this, one thing that I found interesting is, and this is, I guess I'll move this into the strategic part of my review. Strategy-wise, I would say there's a ton of strategy for the most part in this game, because whenever you play, you're, at the very outset, you're having to make a decision what direction you're wanting to go. And every time you make a move, your opponents have a chance of following you, and every time that you try to get a technology, you have usually a lot of choices. So you have all these things you have to consider over, do I want to play an action this turn? Do I want to get this technology or this technology? And everything seems to make a pretty big difference. Now, the only thing is that whenever you play, your opponent could purposely make the game go quicker, because if they start going for one stack of cards like warfare a lot, the game will end quicker, because that stack will end. And especially if you're playing a 2-player game, it's only one stack that has to go away. And as you add more players, it takes 2 stacks to empty before the game trigger ends. But someone can purposely go after that and try to make the game end quicker if they think they have the lead or are doing really well. And that could be a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it. It's an interesting thing to me, the fact that you can purposely accelerate the end of the game. Or you can purposely try to lengthen it out if everyone is working on trying to balance how many cards they get of each type. So that's interesting, but strategically I think it's important, because you can purposely accelerate to the end if you're doing really well. And because for the most part, your points are all open. You see how many points they have. You see their planets. There's not really anything that's secret, except for maybe you didn't notice a technology card that they got that has points that goes into their hand. But it's all open. So if you realize you're way ahead, you have an incentive to try to actually take those cards quickly so that you can end the game. So point being, strategy-wise, there's lots of strategy. I mean, you could be going for certain sets of planets to get certain technology cards, because as you saw, some technology cards require 3 of the same type of planet, and some technology cards require 1 of each of the 3 basic planets. So you can go for sets of planets to go for certain technology, and you're trying to figure out how to customize your deck, all those things. There's just a lot going on. So there's plenty of strategy. So finally, I guess I will just end by saying I would definitely give this an 8 out of 10. Now, 8 out of 10, I'm going to start right now. I'm going to post what Board Game Geek shows as what each rating means. 8 out of 10, I would suggest this game. I like it that much that I would suggest playing it, because even though I have had games where I felt like it ended too quickly, I find myself, that makes me want to play it again. I'm like, man, I didn't get to do everything I wanted to do. I want to play again. It has that factor that makes me want to come back, try a different strategy, try to get different cards. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. It's not way up there for me, partly because, one, it can end too quickly, and it feels like I never quite get the full satisfaction that I want, but it makes me want to come back for more. So I really recommend this game. It's really enjoyable. If you like deck builders especially, I think this one is definitely worth adding to your collection. That being said, let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Do you disagree with anything that I said, or if you have any questions, comments, whatever. And thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful for you. And if you did enjoy it, if you don't mind, if you could subscribe, I'd appreciate that. And if you would give me a thumbs up, that'd be awesome too. But in the meantime, I look forward to seeing you on the next one, and see you then.